It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And this is my favorite part of the show when I guess what is in Tim's background right here. And I'm going to take a wild stab here. I think you have a document signed by one Robert L. Peters. Do you know who I'm referring to when I say that, Tim?
I do.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
And I bet you 99% of the 99 people who listen to us don't know what I'm talking about. But am I right about that? You have a document from Robert L. Peters?
I do not.
Okay. Let's see what you have.
It's Hurricane Hillary.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Is that the way I haven't been following my hurricanes.
Yeah,
you know, I'm trying to keep track with Lahaina and everything. So there's only one disaster at a time that I can keep up with. But Robert,
I had a real horrible picture of hula dancers, fire dancers, but I thought that was a bad taste.
Yeah, it would have been good though. It would have been good. So Robert L. Peters, this just came out today, I believe. It's from Comer's committee. He believes that Robert L. Peters is a pseudonym for Joseph Vice President Joe Biden, and it's supposedly that signature is on documents related to Hunter and Burisma. And if this is true, I mean, you know, if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck and talks like a duck, and it's a corrupt vice president of the United States, but that is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, but how can you prove that he's Robert L. Peters? You know, it's like trying to sue over a contract signed by Carlos Danger. If you remember the
I'm sure circumstantially, you know, they could show that. I mean, with other things that there is no such person as Robert L. Peters.
Well, which is kind of interesting is that Biden wanted to be a Peter, but Wiener wanted to be a Danger.
What? I mean, I thought I was just popping this on you. You not only know who it is, you already have a tight 10 on this. Excellent.
He's actually got 3, if I'm not mistaken. There's like 2 other ones that he had, like
Nelson Mandela. He just believes that he was in jail with Nelson Mandela, not that he actually is, and then he morphed into Mandela. No, yeah. Well, that's interesting. The plot thickens on that, but of course, there's not going to be any investigation of all this because the whole Biden prosecutor thing is a sham. What I love is how you get the commentators on CNN who say, "What do they want? Garland put up a Republican as the special prosecutor here." Well, yeah, nominally he's a Republican, but he was approved by the 2 Democratic senators from Delaware, and he slow walked everything, as Andy McCarthy pointed out. He let the statute of limitations run. I believe that's malpractice if you're trying to preserve the right to bring Hunter to court. So he let the statute of limitations run on a couple of key nefarious acts. So yeah. That is a joke. Speaking of jokes, we've got the indictment in Georgia, which I thought, you know, when Trump became president again, he would just get rid of this by ordering General Sherman to take Atlanta again. But Trump supposedly on Monday, did he say he was going to be announcing how he knows that the Georgia vote was rigged from his golf course at Bedminster. And I think that's going to be right after he shoots a 64 at Bedminster. I don't think he's got the evidence to show that. But on the other hand, I don't think Georgia has the evidence, or as once again, Andy McCarthy said, and I listened to a whole commentary podcast on this, so I just want to spit out what I learned from that Fani Willis, the prosecutor here in Georgia, has no idea.
That's how you pronounce it?
I think it's Fani. I'm not sure. Has no idea what racketeering is and doesn't understand.
That's not how I've been reading it.
How have you been reading?
Well,
Fanny. Yeah,
it
that's
like
what I
Fanny.
thought so too. Maybe that's Andy's New Jersey, New York accent. It could be, but in any event, she supposedly doesn't even understand what racketeering is. If I understand it correctly, the RICO was designed so that you could get the Gambino family, which was engaged in a criminal enterprise like narcotics and everything else that they did,
or
murder.
selling influence in the Ukraine.
There, well, okay. Let's not go there for a second. I'll put that at the side. But what I'm thinking is that so anything in furtherance of that, all these other crimes that were committed could be under the umbrella of the racketeering statute. Because I always think RICO, yeah, it's it's Edward G. Robinson talking there, but it's not a criminal enterprise that would qualify under RICO to keep yourself in power as the president of the United States. That's not criminal. So you wind up criminalizing all this speech or the things that shouldn't be criminalized. So it almost sounds like this is another one that isn't going to go anywhere. Of how many are there? There are 5 different cases right now. Somebody tweeted that Trump has been indicted in every city in the National League East except Philadelphia. But yeah, it's that's not going to go anywhere. The New York case is absolutely ridiculous on its face.
Well, it's kind of the same thing. That isn't he being charged with like obstruction of a crime that wasn't a crime?
Well, I mean, again, there is nothing wrong with trying to keep your job as the president of the United States. I mean, you can do things that are illegal, but it doesn't. Among the things that were alleged is like somebody hacked a voting system in a county. The problem is that Trump isn't the one who did that. It's some low-level person who allegedly did that. It's going to be tough to connect that to Trump. Also, there were supposedly meetings like Rudy and Jenna Ellis had with the legislature, but that's more like a gripe session about the election. That's not actionable.
One of the points she brought up, I saw, was that he actually advised people on Twitter to watch Newsmax.
Right. Yeah, he's got that on its face is criminal.
And it's funny. It's funny. I think to a lot of Democrats, that is a crime.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know of Democrats who were just, absolutely thrilled by this. This is where we're finally going to get them. And like I say, this one doesn't sound any good. The only one that sounds like it's plausible is the one in Florida over the documents. And even that, as a guy like Eli Lake, who is no Trump fan whatsoever, points out the Espionage Act is so arbitrarily and capriciously enforced. Witness Hurricane Hillary, right there. That's kind of ridiculous too. So, anyway, it's just again, we waited a long time for this one. I think last week we were anticipating that it was going to be out like the day that we recorded last week, and it just doesn't seem like anything. So
Newt Gingrich says that he has sources that told him that the reason why it came out at 11 o'clock on Monday was because there was a call from Washington to Fawny that they wanted her to rush it because of the big blunder they made naming Weiss the special prosecutor.
Oh.
Is that they wanted to knock that out of the news cycle so that that's
right, because Weiss is a bunch of BS as well. So let's throw some more BS out there to make everybody forget Weiss. Meantime, I guess we're coming up to debates and such, and DeSantis is taking a real interesting tack here, which sounds like a losing strategy. He's not going to attack Trump. He's actually going to defend Trump. He's going to let Christie do the yeoman work against Trump. But Trump's the big leader right now. If you don't attack the leader, why are you in the race? And I mean, you got to have a reason for being in it.
Well, because you don't think that he's going to be there at the end of the race. Is that and DeSantis can actually take all the Trump support if he runs on, I'm going to pardon the guy and I'm going to go after every one of these jerks that abuse the justice system to try to get him. That's a winning platform. If Trump is no longer
the big thing is Trump's got to not be there. And what makes you think Trump's not going to be there? I mean, he's leading so big right now. What possibly? I mean, I do note I saw a picture of him somewhere. I think it was in his golf outfit and everything. Boy, is he fat. I mean, he's not Christy fat. I mean, he really looked porcine, seen. But is it funny?
He's Republican fat. It's not like Pritzker or Christie fat. It's
right.
He's got a little bit of Republican fat on him.
Yeah. No problem. No problem with that. It's yeah, that's the only thing I think could do him in. I mean, but he still seems robust somehow at age 78. Certainly more so than Biden.
There's a theory if they can stick one charge that's going to be enough to actually the 14th Amendment, Article 3. It's claimed that it proves that he was conspiring to an insurrection, and that's all they need.
What is this in the Georgia case?
Any of the cases. Any of the cases, they can say, it's obviously an insurrection, and then certain secretaries of state, like Michigan, will say, well, we can't put him on the ballot. So I think that's what DeSantis is hoping for.
But he's got to be convicted on that first.
Does he? It doesn't say
you can't just have an allegation that he did that.
The amendment does not say you have to be found guilty of insurrection. It just says if you conspired to an insurrection.
Well, but then we're going to have challenges in all these states on whether he's on a ballot.
Sure, but it might be too late to get him on the ballot, back on the ballot.
This will be a lot of fun. Well, we'll stay tuned. In the meantime, stay tuned. We'll have more of Bruce and Tim here on the Weekly Wrap.
Senator Moreno, who I said the president spoke to just last night, he thanked the president for the immediate support of federal agencies have delivered for residents of Hawaii.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And who do you think's dumber? Is it this, what's her name, St. Pierre? It sounds like it's smart because it sounds Frenchy. Or Kamala Harris? Who's dumber, do you think?
I don't know. I think they're both strong, intelligent women that Republicans fear. That's what I think.
Yeah, sure. Now, here's the thing. I know that, we are sensitive about pronouns. We don't like all this pronoun use. But, sometimes it does matter. And when you call a she a he, I mean, she's a woman, baby,
I wonder if I don't even know I don't know. I don't want to misgender that person, but I wonder if the press secretary even knows who this senator is.
Oh, that probably doesn't. And what?
Just reading.
This is a Hawaiian senator, right? I mean,
yeah.
It's not even the continental United States. They weren't even admitted to the Union in, what was it, 1960? I actually remember when I believe it was either Alaska or Hawaii were admitted to the Union. It was in kindergarten, and they said, here's the flag, and we're throwing another star in. And so, but, nowadays, I'm sure, all they do is kneel on the flag, if anything, in school.
You remember them putting those last two stars on?
Well, did they? I don't remember if it was done. Did they come in at the same time, like arm in arm, Alaska and Hawaii, or was?
I think I think they did.
I can't remember.
I remember the family across the street had a flag with 48 stars. I remember looking at it, count and go, wow, what? That must be really old. No, about 4 years.
Yeah, exactly. So, moving on to Lahaina, speaking of dumb comments, Joe Biden was asked about it. His original statement was no comment. I mean, is it possible he just didn't know that something had happened in Lahaina and therefore said no comment? I mean, if his press secretary...
I think his people told him to just not say anything because they wanted to avoid an Aleppo moment.
What was the Aleppo moment? This just in. Alaska came in on January 3rd, 1959, and Hawaii came in August 21st, 1959. So, must have been Alaska that came in. It must have been the 49th star that I noticed back then. because school wasn't
I don't think they ever. I think they went from 48 to 50. I don't
No,
think they
I mean,
ever...
we just got it from Chris, just sent it, our producer. So
yeah, I know, but I don't think they changed the flag.
Oh, you don't think they changed the
No,
flag?
I don't think they changed the flag
That's
until
interesting.
it was 50.
Very interesting. So anyway, so what was this that you were saying, Ms. Court Reporter? Please read back what Tim
Gary
just
Johnson.
said.
Gary Johnson was being interviewed, and they said, "What do you think about that Aleppo problem?"
Yeah. Oh, he didn't know,
and he just went blank because
okay.
Because at that point it was referred to as the Syrian problem, I think it was.
Oh, and he didn't know that Aleppo was the capital.
And nobody did. If you look at the Google
Nobody
trends,
knew that. Yeah.
If you look at the Google trends, it's Aleppo spikes right after that interview.
What's Aleppo? Yeah. So yeah, you're not supposed to. I mean, I'm not. You don't have to know what Lahaina is. Even though I know
it sounds Hawaiian. It sounds Hawaiian for a naughty part, doesn't it? Kinda?
Yeah, and I've been to
hit me right in the Lahaina.
I don't think Lahaina is the place that you stop in Maui. I was in Maui. I think you kind of go through there. You never want to stop, but they're trying to turn this into a global warming moment, and it doesn't really seem like that's going to fly. From what my understanding,
global warming causes incompetence at fire departments.
I think so. Well, don't they have? They have grasses that were allowed to grow too tall near electrical equipment or something like that because the local environmental people were more concerned with renewables and not with just mowing the lawn, I guess.
More concerned with growing grass than than fixing the electric poles because because in the future we're not going to need electricity. We're going to power the earth. We're going to power the economy on unicorn gas.
Well, also on windmills, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I never know what if I'm reading on the internet is something from the London Daily Mail, which I should take with a grain of salt. But are these windmills? Is the sound like killing whales? Am I right about that, or am I just making that up right now?
It's speculated because they're looking for sites for windmills out in the ocean, and they're using sonar detection, and they believe that it's actually causing the whales to beach themselves.
Oh, okay.
The sound.
All right. Because I thought they were all beaching
themselves. It's so annoying. It's so annoying, and their flippers can't reach their ears.
Oh. See, I thought they were beaching themselves because Kramer from Seinfeld had hit Titleist golf balls in their blowholes. But okay, that was my theory. All right, so there was this article. I normally don't do this, but I sent you an article a couple of days ago. I'm glad to hear that you didn't read it. But it was by Kevin Williamson of the Dispatch. I happen to know Kevin. Had breakfast tacos with him in Dallas 5 years ago, and he's like one of my favorite writers. But Chris, who doesn't want to speak here, I understand that. Did say off the air that it's elitist crap, even though Kevin is trying to sound like the everyman here, which is, I mean, that is a gambit, like Tucker Carlson does that. He's worried about driverless trucks and what the truck drivers are going to do. Meanwhile, Tucker Carlson was making like $15 million a year up until a few minutes ago. But this article, if I may summarize it, just says that we always talk about wealth being inherited, and we feel there's in our egalitarian impulses to feel that that's unfair, but there's a lot of unfairness, like height. all of our presidents have been tall. Nobody's upset with the Dutch being, Dutch women are much taller than Chinese men. Nobody's upset about that. And it's true. I mean, right. See,
especially Chinese men, if you want to know the truth of it.
But he also mentioned that intelligence is largely inherited as well. And the problem is that there's a lot of successful people who happen to be intelligent who like to think that they've earned what they've done. But in fact, they didn't earn their intelligence. That was bred into them. Yeah, so I understand it. Now, is that an argument for socialism? I don't think Kevin Williamson would say that because whenever eventually you're going to have the smart people as socialists are going to put themselves at the top of some hierarchy. That's the way it always happens. So we're better off with the system that we have.
You really think it's intelligent people moving up to the top of the hierarchy in government?
In not only government, but I mean, look, where are the wealthy centers in the United States right now? I mean, they happen to be in the blue cities in a few zip codes. They are, and they inbreed intelligently. He makes this interesting point that
sounds like you're spewing elitist crap now too, Bruce.
There we go. What am I reading the dispatch for?
Oh, sure. The blue cities are far more intelligent because they.
So he mentions that the Trumpistas, the ones who really believe it, I was thinking of you a little bit there, who believe in the conspiracy theories and such, are intelligent people, but not necessarily as smart as the other white guys who happen to be the liberals. And you want to find a reason for knocking them down, and look for conspiracies. I don't look for conspiracies, but I still feel like I can knock them down. Look, here is my solution. I think the government should force people to get married, and the combined SAT scores of the spouses should not exceed 2,100 divided by 2, which would be the average SAT score then. And that's how we could make everything equal. Otherwise, people are going to have an advantage. And sure, I'll have to do this at the point of a bayonet or an F-15. I get it. But once we get rid of everybody's guns, it'll be a lot easier. Yeah.
Well, I've always kind of felt that that average SAT score is always kind of worked out, because high achieving men, the reason why they achieve is so they can marry a bimbo.
Well, I don't know that happens as much as you think it is.
Oh, no. It's why generational wealth only lasts 3 generations.
Well, that's true.
Because and the second generation of a family is always half bimbo.
Well,
and then by the third generation, you still have enough money to marry a bimbo. So the third generation, you're only 1/4 achiever and 3/4 bimbo at that point. And I point, for example, the Kennedys.
Well, right. He makes this point that eventually you get Waltons driving Ubers. The wealth dissipates, and they're not as smart anymore. Look, a lot of things are inherited. We'd like to look as something that you've earned, or it's meritorious. I remember Pete Rose. They used to call him Charlie. Mickey Mantle called him Charlie Hustle because he always hustled, and well, he's a hard worker. Well, maybe that's he was bred like that. I mean, that's
I always thought the Charlie Hustle nickname was because he ran the bases quickly, but then But then after the gambling thing happened, I said, "Oh no, there was another reason why."
Yeah, right. No question about it. So no, Mickey Mantle was, like deriding him. It was, but yeah, that's the kind of thing that we look at. Oh yeah, you've got grit. Well, some people are born with grit, and some people don't have that at all. And I don't know. His whole point, though, was not an elitist one. It was he still believes in our system, our democratic market capitalist system, because it's the best way. And people who attack, like Chris, you got to be careful when you say this is elitist, because it sounds like you just want to replace this with some kind of authoritarian Putin-like regime. So get out from behind that curtain, buddy, and let's argue some other time. We've run out of time right here. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
We are learning more about Mayor Johnson's decision to fire Chicago's public health director.
Johnson was asked if the decision stemmed from disputes between Dr. Allison Arwady and the Chicago Teachers Union.
Transition is difficult for everyone. But as already been articulated, I don't know how many times you're allowed to quote Tupac in a press conference, but you can't always go by the things that you hear, right? Real eyes, right? Realize and realize. That's also Tupac Shakur.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. And of course, Tim, you know, the only reason we ran that clip was I just wanted to say the mayor was developing a Tupac a day habit. But hey, okay, all right.
So, oh man, that was worthwhile.
Well, actually, I did want to get into the issue a little bit, and that is, correct me if I'm wrong. This health doc was fired because the mayor is controlled by the Chicago Teachers Union, and she opened the schools, quote unquote, too early, like as if the Chicago public schools were opened up early. I mean, that's how radical everything is in the city of Chicago right now. Do I have that wrong? Is that the scenario?
That's what it seems. It's what it seems, because a lot of a lot of teachers lost their cruise deposits, I think. Right.
So, I get a little concerned when I'm not getting the references that well of the politicians are supposed to be Squaresville, but now we got a mayor who's cool. I mean, he's quoting Tupac. I like a guy like Joe Biden who uses the word malarkey. Okay. And I understand that. I understand malarkey. But
well, Tupac's I mean, that's he died like 30 years ago.
I know. That just shows.
So it isn't really a hip reference. It's just it's a reference from a culture that you were never a part of.
Right, which means it's a hip reference. So I don't know if you get where I'm coming from. 30 years ago,
the only hip references I get are replacement surgery.
Right, 30 years ago is 1993. Most of my references are pre-1970, so there's like a 23-year gap right there.
I remember that Rush Limbaugh used to call him No Pac.
Oh, okay.
Because
very good. Excellent, Rush.
Because of where he was shot.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's been a while. Hey, kudos, as Michael Jordan would say, to the Art Institute employees who got a union contract. Now, this is a little late for those docents that got ash canned a couple of years ago. You know who those docents were? They were little old white ladies who actually knew something about art, but they got rid of them because, why would you want the personal touch from somebody who actually knows what they're talking about when you could have, I believe, a recording from a minority who's just reading something? I may be wrong about that. Please disabuse me of my ignorance here, but I think that's what happened.
It was. Yeah. Why would you have volunteers when you can have more jobs to hand out just in time for election?
Well, I mean, but it's nice that that they're protecting some people, but the right people, not the wrong people, like the little old ladies who actually knew what they were talking about and had an appreciation for art. Just going back a little bit, we were talking about that elitist Kevin Williamson, whom I really admire. So I see where we're all concerned about how the wealth is concentrated in the blue states and among the elite. UPS drivers, correct me if I'm wrong, they can now make $170,000 a year. A UPS driver.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch the Kevin James show, The King of Queens, where he was?
Oh yeah, he was a UPS driver.
Basically, a UPS driver, and it was tough for them to make ends meet. Making $170,000 a year. I mean, I'm almost
now. I mean, that was the new contract.
No, I understand that.
And it makes sense too. It's funny. You go to UPS and you figure you're going to ship something. You can say, well, how much could it cost? Because if it's an Amazon return, they just take the box and it's free. Do you ever actually ship something UPS? Holy cow!
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, it's really expensive, and now you know why.
I mean, is UPS the one where they never, for economy's sake, for saving time, they never make a left turn?
Yeah, they
how do you do that? Maybe you should be making $1 million a year if you can do that. How do you?
Well, it's I think it's pre-programmed for them. I think it goes in the route is in their navigation, so it makes it with as few right turns as possible.
As few left turns as possible.
Left turns. That's right. That's right.
Right. I mean, eventually you got to make a left turn.
It's the union. The union doesn't want to make a right turn.
No, I totally understand that. But if they're making 170 grand a year, what's wrong with this picture?
I think they
why
can buy
aren't
their
we
own brown
why aren't we
pantsuit.
pulling in 500K each for this podcast? I don't get it.
We need a better union. Actually, we should be on strike right now because we're writers and performers. So
maybe we'll start out as a docent for the Art Institute, ushering people in and never ushering them to the left, always making right turns to make it fast for them to get through the Art Institute. We can do that. There's 3 paintings you want to see, right? You want to see American Gothic, because if you grew up like I did with the cereal New Country Cornflakes, where they actually had a picture of American Gothic on the cover, on the cereal box. You want to see American Gothic.
Were they actually in the commercial too? Didn't they actually find an
Oh yeah, they actually had that. Because they actually had them to the beat of the music, knocking the pitchfork down to the ground. Yeah, I definitely.
No, that was Green Acres you're thinking of.
Maybe both. You know what? I think you're right. I think you are. I think I'm conflating Green Acres with New Country Cornflakes.
But I mean, that was not an accident when they were standing out in front of the farm with the pitchfork and Lisa and Oliver.
I think the Art Institute has a picture of Eddie Albert and Ava Gabor in it too. I think I think they're in the bar with Nighthawks.
I think that would be over at the Smithsonian, as Ava would say it.
I think they're sitting there next to that lonely guy at the bar in Nighthawks, which is the second thing that you would see. And the third thing is the Seurat pointillism, gigantic painting. After that, that's it.
Sunday in the Park.
Sunday, three pictures. You're out. We move them in and out. All right turns. 170K a year as a docent for the Art Institute. What do you say?
So I remember I made the mistake. I viewed the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution in D.C. on 4th of July weekend. It was not a good idea. And it was.
How do you do that? Did you actually see it?
Well, they have it there in the archives. Yeah, they have it on display.
Yeah, but I mean, what kind of line did you have?
That's the thing. And it was a huge line. I still remember the guard saying, "Don't read it. Don't read it. Just move on. Don't read it."
Right, how about you make a deal with the guard? Okay, I'm just going to read part of the preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. Now I'm going to go over the Declaration. When in the course of human events, I won't even get life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I promise, but I want to at least take a gander at both of these. It's like when I went to the Lincoln Museum in Springfield. The one time I visited Springfield a couple of years ago, I gave a speech before the Illinois State Bar Association. Oh, wow. Yeah, I bombed, but it was fun. Still,
well, you're still in the association though, so you couldn't have bombed too bad.
Right. So but you visit Lincoln's home, and you can't believe the construction that they had in the 19th century. I mean, especially when the streets aren't even paved, but you see his home. But then they had this museum, and I started.
Did you rub his nose? Did you rub his nose?
No, I didn't.
No, there's a bronze statue of Lincoln, and his nose is real shiny because for some reason everyone goes by and rubs his nose.
Oh, I missed that one.
Yeah, bronze is oxidized except for his nose.
Oh, I'll have to go back to Springfield someday. It's
rub Lincoln's nose.
Yeah, but we were in the. I went to the museum, and I was coming up on, there's his house. Yeah, that's it. I saw it. I came up on his on the Gettysburg Address, and I thought, I'm going to see the real Gettysburg Address. Well, apparently it was out for cleaning or something, but they had a copy of it, and even the copy of it made me well up. Huh. I mean, it's just amazing. It's so profound. And then we now have a picture of Lincoln's nose. How do you reach Lincoln's nose? It's pretty high up there.
I don't think it is. That's not Rushmore.
It's
just a close up. It looks.
Oh, it's a close up. Okay, it's a look. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's a.
Yeah, need a ladder. Need to climb up there like Cary Grant in North by Northwest to rub his nose.
Did Cary Grant in North by Northwest take like an electric clippers or whatever, and shave some of the the branches that coming out of Lincoln's nose on Mount Rushmore, or am I thinking of a Don Martin cartoon from Mad Magazine? I can't. I'm conflating a lot of things right now. I don't remember. Anyway,
so the original Gettysburg Address wasn't it on the back of an envelope? Isn't that
supposedly? Yeah, on the back.
So they don't have that. They have the first printed version, right?
I gotta tell you though. Yeah, the envelope. That had to be one hell of a big envelope, because even a 2-minute speech, I mean, I could barely fit "of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth" on the back of the envelope. What am I going to have on the front? One other sentence. That sounds mythological to me.
Envelopes were bigger then, because
back then, that's all they had to do was
they didn't have fine print.
Right. That's all. I mean, and that's all they did was write letters to each other. They didn't have internet. Anyway, the larger point here is $170K for these people. And yet we've got a very serious situation in the United States. Did you see where the suicide rate where do you think it's highest right now, where it's really spiked? It's not, the teens. I mean, that was for a while, but it's like 45 to 64-year-old white men who don't have jobs, basically. And that's a serious problem. So let's solve it in the next 20 seconds that we have.
Right. You can only have so many people handing out carts at Walmart.
Well, I'm thinking that maybe they should divvy up those UPS jobs. I mean, one guy makes the left turns, one guy makes the right turns, 85 grand each, something like that. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
A nonprofit Native American group says that it wants the Washington Commanders to go back to being called the Washington Redskins.
Because there's a great honor in the name Redskin, which, if we go by what's been reported versus what's actually factual, it's very opposite ends of the spectrum. Term Redskin is not a derogatory term or a racist term. I'm not saying somebody couldn't say it in a derogatory term or in a racist way, but Redskin is actually the status symbol of an elite warrior. And it's actually a purification ceremony where braves on the warpath actually paint their skin red to go to battle.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. I'm very respectful. I'm 132nd Chicago Blackhawk. You do know that, Tim. I mean, if Elizabeth Warren could be, so could I. My dad had season tickets, so. But see, when I first saw this story, I thought it was a fake, because the group is called NAGA, NAGA. So I thought that was a play on MAGA. I just thought the whole thing, that I'm very gullible. But NAGA stands for.
It looks like a setup.
Yeah, it's NAGA stands for Native Americans Guardian Association, and of course, Guardian is the name that the Cleveland Indians changed to. And now Chris just tells me in the break that this group's expanding. Oh, you can't stop them. They're on the war path now. They want to restore the Redskins name as well as the Indian name to Cleveland. And to that I say wahoo. But anyway, no. What's interesting is I think they cited the statistic that 9 out of 10 Native Americans are in favor of the Redskins name. There was a poll by Sports Illustrated like 40 years ago that said 9 out of 10 Native Americans didn't have any problem with the name Redskins. But you know what? We don't care what you think about yourself. We care what we think about yourself. And we're going to get rid of that name.
Yeah, that's basically what it was, wasn't it? It was white people telling Native Americans that they should be offended. And it's my understanding they don't even like to be called Native Americans, or a lot of them don't, because because they're not, because this isn't America to them. They prefer the term Indians because it shows how stupid white people are. That Columbus didn't even know where he was. That's
well, right. It sounds good to me. It's
Far East Asia is what the United States should be called.
Now, is it true that the Native Americans engaged in cannibalism? I think some of them did. And, I don't blame them. It was pretty cold out on the prairie. Once you've used all of the buffalo and you've run out, you do what you
I don't
can.
know that that's what it was. I think it was more from what I read about cannibalism. It was how you cleaned up after a war.
Okay.
You don't waste good meat.
Meat.
Yeah.
Right. So. And who are we to judge? Because it's not like they had microwave ovens back then, and microwave.
That would actually be a good name for a team, wouldn't it? The Man Eaters. Cleveland Man Eaters.
Yeah. So
maybe that would be the women's team. I don't know.
So it would be funny if Redskins were reclaimed somehow. In the wake of Daniel Snyder, the defrocked owner of the team leaving. You got Magic Johnson owns the team now. So and Magic Johnson is like Teflon. He's one of the owners. He could name the team whatever he wants.
Yeah, you couldn't criticize him, could you?
No. He's Magic Johnson, for crying out loud. Yeah. So anyway, speaking of sports, this is the 60th anniversary of the Bears championship season. The one that mattered. Forget the 85 Super Bowl. I'm talking about 63.
The one they didn't brag about before they won it.
Right. The 63 team. And I was thinking in honor of that, they should do like they did in 63 and black out all the home games, which is you couldn't watch the games on TV, the home games on TV back in 63. You couldn't even watch the championship game that the Bears played against the New York Giants because it was a home game at Wrigley Field. And there's good old number 31, Joe Fortunato, and 81, Doug Atkins there, and 33, Larry Morris in on the play. Aren't you impressed that I know my 1963 Chicago Bears? I told you I didn't know any Tupac references, but I know stuff from back then.
And I guarantee if you showed a football game to a millennial on a 1963 television, he would agree that it was unwatchable.
Right. Well, now I think Madden 24 just came out. I mean, and I've never even got involved, like, Madden. Are those done with Roman numerals too? But Madden 1, and the graphics are so much. You'd much rather play a video game now than watch the game that occurred between the Bears and the New York Giants on a black and white TV in 1963.
Somebody posted a game on it was a Madden game. It was totally computer generated.
Yeah.
And they posted it on Facebook because they were excited because the Lions won. And they found that it was like the only game they could find where the Lions won. And I watched a little bit of it. It's amazing. It looks like a real, and then the calls and everything. And the announcer, it's amazing what they've done.
You're talking to a guy who's still amazed at Pong. Boop, 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 boop. I mean, it sounds like heart monitor. Boop, 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 boop. That's no. Is that a picture of a Madden right now that we're looking at?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like Patrick Mahomes. It's just
sure.
It's too real. You know what? They've never really gotten down. Maybe they've gotten it down for Madden for the game, but for actually watching a football game on TV, they've never gotten the sound of the game right. I was fortunate enough to stand on the sidelines for a few Bears games when they let the media do that, and you'd hear these guys banging each other on the line of scrimmage. And I remember, like, Neil Anderson was on the Bears at the time. I couldn't believe that he got up and actually ran another play. One play would be enough, and then you're out. I mean, the hitting is so hard, and you hear it. But, when you're watching it on TV, you can barely hear any sound of it above the sound of your jaw crunching through a bunch of M&Ms and potato chips as you go from sweet to salt. You an illustration of what the impact is like, and I also think that they should have this available now. They certainly got the technology. You should have some sort of easy boy recliner that will administer pain to you like the players are getting during the game.
If your team, yeah.
Well, you ratchet it up to whatever you can take. I mean, it could be as simple as like they could have the sound of your better half coming in and saying, "Why don't you take out the dog?" That could be, one level, but then there could, actually be real pain after that. I'm just thinking, because nobody can approximate what they're feeling. We always wonder, well, why can't the guy just get back up and get back in the game when they're actually killing each other out there? So anyway, 63.
If they were soccer players, they probably wouldn't.
Right. So anyway, I once had a conversation with Ted Phillips, then the president of the Bears, I was working for Fox at the time. And we were joking around for about a half an hour, just, laughing the entire time. But I informed him, he was the president of the Chicago Bears, that the 1963 championship game of his team was not televised locally. It was blacked out in Chicago. He was, his mouth, jaw was agape over that. Wow. But that was, back then, you had to drive to Rockton, Illinois, and at the Wagon Wheel, or go to South Bend or Milwaukee to see the game.
I remember an episode of the Bill Cosby Show where he had a huge antenna mast installed on his house, okay, so he could get the blacked out game.
Think about how many years we've lived with the current version of Bill Cosby, and how far back you have to go when he was America's dad. I mean, that's what you're talking about.
No, this is further. He was America's gym teacher back then.
Oh, right. Yeah. Chet Kincaid.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I came up with that one. Did you see where Christopher Nolan, the director of Oppenheimer, says that his favorite comedy is Talladega Nights? And every time it's on TV, he has to watch it, which helps explain to me that line. I don't know if you saw the movie where the guy goes, "Oppenheimer, you made that bomb your bitch." I knew it came from somewhere. But isn't it something? Is that Christopher?
It's kind of diminished the stature of Christopher Nolan in my mind to learn that.
Did you not like Talladega Nights?
I didn't even watch it. I can't stand Will Ferrell.
Yeah, there's something that irritates me about Will Ferrell too, but something I like too. I have to tell you that after that scene where they say grace, which is hysterically funny, it's kind of like an SNL sketch that should have stopped right then. I think, but it still was pretty funny. Hey, one more thing here. I just saw come across the wire. The Red Cross, when you're donating blood, okay, if you're a man, you have to fill out gender and everything. And even when you filled out the gender man, they still ask, are you pregnant or have you ever been pregnant? You know what? You can take my blood and shove it. I mean, if I'm going to have to fill out a form that says, yeah, men must answer the question, are you pregnant, before donating blood with the American Red Cross. I mean, this is the Red Cross's Bud Light moment. I'm telling you, I'd rather have you put Bud Light in somebody else's veins than my blood.
No, are you sure that's actually you actually do have to answer that? Because I know that I've filled out medical forms too, and that's just a standard question: are you pregnant? And I always check no, because I always thought it was funny. But it's man. You do have to answer it.
If you're a man, you have to answer all the questions. Huh. You have to answer that.
Wow.
Well, all right. We'll look further into this. This will keep the crowd hanging for next week's show. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
And that's the Weekly Wrap on radio and television. Follow Bruce at Bruce Wolf Shy on Twitter and Tim at timslagle.com. The Weekly Wrap with Bruce Wolf, a CP Pods production.